Hello, guys. Very welcome. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to Unlevel Ground. My name is Esther, and if you haven't been here before, it's nice to have you here today. So, today, guys, I would love to speak to you about something that I went through in the past half a year, the last 6, 7 months when I was missing on social media. Yeah, it was a difficult season for me. I had good reasons to be missing on social media and on YouTube, most especially, because that is what I really missed the most. But also, I just tend to have this bad habit. I just go ghost mode when I'm going through something difficult. Yeah, a lot of people around me know that it's just a bad habit of mine. But I just like to just get into my cocoon and, yeah, deal with myself in difficult seasons. So, anyways, in the last video, I gave you guys an introduction as to one of the issues that I was wrestling with. For example, faith being one of the issues that I was wrestling with in that season. And today I want to speak about what actually tanked me into the season, what introduced me. It wasn't the only thing that I was dealing with, and it got better over time, thank the Lord. I think it naturally does. But yeah, today, guys, I want to speak to you about burnout. Burnout is something I experienced. I did not expect it at all. When I tell you guys, I did not see that one coming. I did not see that one coming. I did not. I did not see that one coming. Anyways, and it came. Yeah, that's life. Life is really interesting. It really, really is interesting. And my view of life has changed so much. So much. Life is it's just something very, very interesting. Anyways, I want to speak to you guys about burnout and my experience. I guess less of my experience because I believe that burnout is, it manifests in very similar ways in most of the people's lives. They experience same symptoms, which are, for example, tiredness and feeling loss of joy, loss of purpose, loss of, happiness and drive in the daily life. And there's so many more symptoms that you can Google. I needed to Google to see. I remember in prayer, I remember one day when I was really asking the Lord, I was like, what is this? When it was at the peak, when it was at the worst, I remember going to the Lord in prayer and I was just like, what is this? And he just whispered, it was like burnout. And he just whispered burnout. And that's just what I heard in my heart, I guess. And I went to Google and I just saw the list of symptoms and how I met every single symptom. And I was like, what the heck? Because I just had a different picture of what a burnout was. That's why I really didn't think that I was going through it. But that's what it was, and it was real. And I just want to speak to you guys about what I've learned and what the Lord pointed me towards in that season to kind of help me realize that it's a thing and it can happen and it may not look like what you think it looks like. That's what I want to speak about today. So stay tuned if you want to know a little more about that. So I don't even know where to begin. It was interesting because I was kind of in a sabbatical season. And it wasn't intentional. It was kind of something that I feel like was just gifted to me. I was out of the country for a while. And in those few months where I was out of the country, I just had this grace to rest. And I just had this grace and this overwhelming peace that I had received. And no matter what came my way, things were just so calm and just so peaceful. And nothing bothered me. And funny enough, I really transitioned from that season into a burnout. So I don't know if it was like, I was trying to give you the little happiness before it goes down. I don't know what the Lord was doing. But anyways, I was very thankful for that season because it was really, really cool. Yeah, it started off slowly, as I think it does with many things. You don't recognize it. It kind of sneaks up on you. Depression, I think, does. Burnout does. And burnout did. I just started feeling disturbed and restless, and I just questioning a lot of things, doubting a lot of things. Anyways, you guys, I don't really want to give you like a super detailed explanation of what burnout looks like. Again, go and look up the symptoms, but all the symptoms that you would Google concerning a burnout is what applied to me. Pretty much most of them I experienced during this time. I remember in the beginning, the Lord hinting me towards a Bible story that I want to get into with you guys. It was in Second Kings, and he was pointing me towards Elijah. Not specifically a Bible story, but just Elijah. And, the first few chapters of him turning up and what he did and whatever. And I read through the stories, through the story and his stories, kind of his experiences. And I didn't feel I didn't resonate. I couldn't resonate with it. I didn't understand what he was trying to tell me. Excuse me. I didn't understand what he was trying to tell me because I hadn't gone through the fullness of the experience of a burnout. Therefore, I couldn't resonate with, the answers that he was giving me before I had even experienced what he was pointing me towards, right? So he was giving me like the answers for questions that I hadn't asked to kind of give me a hint, that give me understanding for what was going to happen. Yeah, maybe we should just go into the Bible story. So yeah, in the Bible story, I think I said Second Kings before, but it was actually First Kings. So First Kings 18 and 19 is what stuck out to me eventually. Not knowing what exactly he wanted me to pay attention to or why, but those two chapters stuck out to me. And to just give you a little summary, in First Kings 18, Elijah does quite a few miraculous things. Like he performs literally miracles by the power of God. And he kills the prophets of Baal and tears down their altar. And yeah, he does a lot of things in the name of the Lord. He calls down fire from earth, as far as I remember. So yeah, he did some miraculous, really, really great things, miracles that a lot of prophets didn't do. So, and then in chapter 19, something switched. So in chapter 19, Elijah comes up and Jezebel is like, oh, who is this guy? We need to kill him. She knew of Elijah, not who is this guy. She knew of Elijah. She was like, we need to kill this guy because she was a priestess of Baal, which was the god that they were worshiping. So Elijah heard of that and he started to run away because he got afraid. And at one point he got tired and exhausted and he collapsed under a tree and just cried out to God and said, take my life because I'm no better than my forefathers. And he kind of gave up. So it's a really interesting switch how he went from miracles that many prophets weren't able to do in their time or any time before that or after that to collapsing and asking the Lord to take his life because he was exhausted and was not in for this life or that kind of life anymore. So one would ask yourself, what the heck happened to Elijah? Why the heck did he collapse? Why did he want to die? Why did he lose purpose and hope after experiencing all these miracles and the hand of the Lord in his life in such a miraculous way? Yeah. Do I know the answer? No. I don't know the answer, but I remember when I cried out to the Lord and I asked him, God, what is it that brought me to this place? What is it that I am feeling? Because I've experienced depression before and I knew it wasn't depression because it didn't feel like I was surrounded by darkness. It felt like I was empty of myself in a way that I had never experienced before. I'd lost purpose, joy, lookout, like the energy to do daily tasks was completely gone. I would wake up in the morning as empty as you could be, and it was really, really hard. So I remember the peak of that season. I just cried out to the Lord and I was like, Lord, you need to help me. And he whispered it was a burnout. And then he pointed me towards this story. And I was reading Elijah and I was reading, what Elijah was going through. And I wondered, I was like, did he go through a burnout? Again, I don't know for sure if it was that, but I believe the Lord was like, there is a connection, or I think you'll be able to resonate with how he felt in that season. What I can tell you guys about my story, at least what I feel like was a substantial part of the burnout, is that I did not expect it to be a burnout. I mentioned that before. I did not expect for me to go through a burnout because burnout looked a certain way for me. So for me, I wasn't working at the time. That's why I was able to be out of the country. So for me, it made no sense to be going through a burnout if you weren't working, right? So it was the typical type of burnout that I was thinking of. And I didn't understand why I would be going through a burnout if I wasn't actively working in that time. And I learned that something that I look back on in these 3 years that was kind of hard for me to realize and come to terms with, but I had to learn, was that I had really been operating by a work-based gospel. So I wasn't receiving the grace from God that I could have been receiving because I was still operating in a religious mindset, which I believe I partially grew up with and then just developed over time. So when I came to God, it automatically combined the religious mindset and that salvation story and the grace and everything and the power to live a life, to live the fullest life and to live the highest form of life. I kind of combined it and it meshed into yeah, into this life of faith that wasn't completely healthy for me. So now living by a work-based faith, I was doing things to receive, right? Which I wasn't consciously thinking, I wasn't aware of at all. Yeah, so I remember the Lord highlighting that to me and me understanding that when I read about Elijah, because Elijah, I don't know if he had a regular job, but I don't know if he did. Whether he did or not, that wasn't highlighted in the story. And that stuck out to me. I felt like the burnout was spiritual. And when I say spiritual, it did not concern like his physical life. It's not that he was physically overwhelmed. It's not that he had physically come to the end of himself. He had spiritually and in his soul, like emotionally and mentally come to the end of himself after spiritually, emotionally, mentally exerting himself to a point that God did not necessarily maybe need from him. I'm not saying that the things that he didn't need to be done. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that I wonder if Elijah was operating by a work-based mentality too. Because he was so zealous. And that's the word that stuck out to me. And that's what kind of hinted me towards that. And also, again, what I was able to resonate with when I was at the peak of my experience within burnout. In 1 Kings 19, from verse 9, it says, "There he came to a cave and spent the night in it. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him. And he said to him, 'What are you doing here, Elijah?' Then he said, 'I have been very zealous for the Lord God of hosts, proclaiming what is rightfully and uniquely his. For the sons of Israel have abandoned your covenant, tore down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. And I, only I, am left, and they seek to take away my life.'" But the word zealousness stuck out to me. And I was just thinking, to be zealous is really not a good drive for ministry. Let's just round it up all with ministry. I think zealousness is not a good drive for ministry. I think zealousness can lead you wrong ways, down the wrong paths really quickly. I think zealousness takes from you but doesn't pour into you. And that is what is necessary for ministry. In everything in life, we are vessels. We call ourselves vessels because that is how the Lord has created and designed us to be. And you can only drink from a cup when someone has poured into a cup. So if you are a vessel, if the Lord or anything that he has designed in life to pour into you hasn't been poured into you, then you can't give it away, right? What you don't have, you cannot give away. So if zealousness is something that I see that kind of drives you but doesn't pour into you. So I don't think it's really a good source for ministry. I don't think it's a good drive for ministry. And I believe zealousness should be replaced with love. I think love is the drive, is a healthy drive, is what pours into you and out of which you can pour again into other people or other things for the Lord because you love him, right? I think love is that healthy drive. And that's one of the things I learned. And I think that's one of the things that in a religious mindset or in a work-based faith mentality is the issue. You do things to please the Lord. You do things for the Lord, but you don't really partner with him as you should, right? The partnering, we always say words like, or statements like, "Oh, use me, Lord." But what does that really mean? You're not something to be used and thrown away. When we want to be used, we want to partner with him, but he partners with us through us, right? It comes and flows naturally from who he has created us to be. So it will never happen apart from who we are. It will never happen independently from who we are. And that's a mistake I did in the past 3 years. A lot of times I felt like I had to kill my soul to obey the Lord or to do things for the Lord. I was sacrificing myself for the Lord. If he had sacrificed himself for me, what was there to sacrifice? Why did I have to sacrifice my soul to do things for the Lord? And there's a difference between killing your flesh and killing your soul. And you have to be very careful not to kill both in the process. And also, only the Lord knows, only the word, and only the Lord knows what is soul and what is flesh. Both work together. I'm not saying that they're separable. I think they are inseparable, but still different. And I'm reminded of the verse in Hebrews 4:12 where he says, the word of the Lord is sharper than any double-edged sword. But it separates as far as being able to divide soul from spirit and bone from marrow. But I really think the Lord is the only one that can, when we say, oh, we need to kill our flesh, we need to kill our flesh, I think we shouldn't take initiative in doing that because we can't even divide between flesh and soul. I think that's something that only the Lord can do. So you really need to surrender and allow him to work through you. Anyways, I was just wondering, was zealousness or being zealous the wrong source for Elijah? Was the wrong thing driving him in this powerful ministry that was still successful, but maybe not for the reasons that we think it was? It was maybe not about Elijah, Maybe he was lacking in his relationship with God. Obviously, he understood of a dimension of God and was able to work within a dimension of God. And that was the reason why he was able to perform these powerful miracles. But when it came to him and just the Lord, when he met the Lord on the mountain, when he met the Lord on the mountain, and the Lord told him to stand outside of the cave after he had told him, I've been zealous and, no one respects your covenant. I'm alone and da-da-da-da. So he complained. He told him what was on his heart. And the Lord told him to stand outside of the cave. And the scripture is quite known. It says, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And there was a powerful wind, and the Lord was not in the wind. And there was a fire, and the Lord wasn't in the fire. And then it says there was a still small voice or a still small sound, and the Lord was in that. So, sorry guys. There was a still small voice, a still small sound, and the Lord was in that. Now, why did the Lord not turn up in the miraculous and supernatural and kind of, the big things? Why didn't he turn up in the big? Why didn't he turn up in the miraculous? That was a characteristic of the ministry of Elijah. But God did not turn up in that because that was something that was a service unto God. It was not a service unto Elijah. God turned up in the still small voice because that softness, that love, that gentleness is what Elijah's heart needed at the time. And I'm not sure if Elijah knew that side of the Lord. And I think the Lord, whether he wanted to introduce or reintroduce himself and that side of himself to Elijah, to explain to him that this ministry is great and there are works that have to be done for me in my name on this earth, but they will never be done in a way that you will have to sacrifice yourself for it. Jesus did that. And if it comes to the point where you will have to sacrifice yourself for it, I'd rather you let go of ministry for sure. Like, no doubt, no discussion, no nothing. And I just found it so beautiful. Anyways, the Lord made me aware of the fact that I was operating in a way that I was giving up something that he never asked me to give up for ministry, and that I needed to be poured into first, and that this might take a while, that is okay. I was just thinking back and coming back to the point of not working. I was working, just not in the way that was visible to people, but it was visible to God, and it was evident to my body. My body, my soul, my spirit was feeling that I was operating by a work based mentality and faith, and that burnt me out. It wasn't physical work that burnt me out, but it was a work based faith that burnt me out. I think that's at least partially what burnt me out. Another reason I believe why I was burnt out is because when it came to the aspect of when I say killing my soul, kind of means, it may sound weird, but for me, it means that I was missing joy. I was missing joy and happiness in life. Like I wasn't doing things, again, to pour into me. And the evidence that I was being poured into, or that I am being poured into, are, for example, joy and love and peace, the fruits of the spirit, kindness, goodness, self-control. Those are like evidence of the fact that you were pouring into yourself. And that evidence wasn't there because I wasn't paying attention to that. So that's what I mean when I said I was killing my soul. So yeah, the Lord made me aware of all of that. And it was crazy. And I didn't realize it, and I had been going, full speed, zealous for the Lord in faith for 3 years, until I came to this point where He allowed me to burn out and realize that that wasn't doing me any good. And that is not why He died. And that righteousness was something that I had attained by grace and not by works. Yeah, coming slowly to an end, because this is a longer video already. I just wrote down 3 things. I'm looking at my laptop here, of what I've learned, of what I've realized in hindsight about life and I guess burnout. And I just want to read it to you guys and, elaborate a little more on it. So the first thing I wrote down is, life is not solely meant to grow you old, but to grow you mature. The reason why I say that is because I think why people come to a place of burnout is because they push too much in life. They push life according, they go at a pace that is fitting to whatever mentality you have, whether it's, productivity mentality, or having to have achieved a certain things at a certain age or whatever. It's this picture that you have of what life should look like. And then you try to create life in that way. You try to push life to become what you have pictured it to be. But life, and that is kind of what I meant when I in the beginning said that life is like my perspective of life, like perception of life has changed so much. Life is so unpredictable. It really is unpredictable. And as much as you want to take control in life, you will never be able to take full control of life. It won't, because life is in God's hands. Apart from the fact that God is life, life is in God's hands, and you are living life, right? It is something that is happening to you, something that you're experiencing, something that, of course, to a certain extent, you have absolutely influence in, your decisions, who you meet, what you do, all your decisions have such a profound impact on your life, of course. And still, life happens to you. It is, I'm just being reminded of Ecclesiastes, and it says, it rains on the wicked and the poor, and the sun shines on the wicked and the poor. And, life just happens to everyone. And sometimes you just don't know why. We put our faith in Christ and we put our faith in God to have security, to have someone to go to, because obviously He holds our life in His hands. But He's also designed life to teach you things. Like, life is there to teach you things. And if you try to just grow old, and if you just try to get to a certain age at a certain pace, then you're going to miss out on life. And what I've found with life is that life will pull you back. And it's something that God does, and God has designed life to do, but life will pull you back. Like, I've heard of really weird stories where people, I remember this guy speaking about he was just going too fast in life, and he noticed it. He had this impression and conviction that he was going too fast in life multiple times, but he just kept going, and he was just like, no, I'm not going to stop now, and I don't have enough reason, I guess, to stop. And then one day he was in a basketball field and he just broke both of his legs. But he fell in a way that was so peculiar, that was so weird. He just knew, it felt like there was no one on the field. He was playing by himself, but it felt like someone had literally kicked him so that he would fall and break his two legs. So it made absolutely no sense. But in the hospital, he was forced to slow down. He was forced to rethink. Like, life will pull you back. And there are things in life that you have to go through all stages in life. You really do. Like, life wants to teach you things. Life wants to pull things out of you. Life wants to reveal you to yourself. Life wants to reveal God to you. Life has so many purposes that you might not find significant, but are significant for your maturity and your growth. And that goes beyond just age and number and, talents or whatever it is. So yeah, life is not only meant to grow you old, but is meant to grow you mature. Then the second thing I wrote down is slow by design. And this is something I heard. It was a title for a burnout course on a life coaching company, from a life coaching company. And I just found the title really, really inspiring and beautiful and so accurate. Slow by design. Again, I think life by design has a pace. And that pace changes, of course, according to season and everything. And yeah, according to season and according to the person, your pace is not always the same in every season, but there is a pace in life. And if you try to outrun that pace, you'll be pulled back. There is a pace in life that you have to follow and that you just need to stay in step with. We oftentimes get deceived by this lie that you are behind and you are not where you're supposed to be at this age, especially in your 20s and your 30s. And now with, whatever season, whether you're a mom and you need to be this kind of mom, or you're in your 20s and you should have built this business, or you're at this stage so you should have this amount of children, you should be married. There are all these expectations that society has and that culture tells us to have achieved in life, that will then automatically speed up we will try to force ourselves to speed up in life so we can meet those criteria, right? Those cultural and societal criteria. But life is slow by design. I think life is slow by design, and life is so much slower than by design than it is comfortable to us. And I've just learned that when God wants to do a thing, he does it at his own pace. And you just need to stay in step with him. And it's easy to run ahead, but life will pull you back and it will be very uncomfortable when it does. But life is slow by design and it is okay. You will end up have done everything you need to do by the end of your life. And you can trust God that will be the case, because every stop, you won't miss out. You really won't miss out. I don't believe in life that you will miss out. Everything you need to live life is within you. And if you put your faith in Christ, you can be sure that there will not be one door that you will miss that is meant to be opened to you. I really believe that. Life is slow by design. Enjoy that pace. Live in that pace. And life will teach you, life will grow you, life will reward you for going by its pace. And the third thing I wrote down is you might have lost focus of what is important. It kind of ties in with the first 2 points. They all are somewhat tied together. But yeah, I just thought of Mary and Martha. If you know the story in the Bible, Mary was at the feet of Jesus listening to him, and Martha was busy getting things ready in the kitchen and stuff like that. And she condemned Mary for just sitting at the feet of Jesus instead of helping her. So she complained to Jesus, and Jesus rebuked her and said, Mary understand what's important. And so I'm not going to take that from her, just because you don't see it in that sense. So that's paraphrasing. I'm going to read the story for yourself. It's a really good lesson. But there are important things in life. And sometimes a burnout helps us to slow down again, because oftentimes we overwork ourselves. And you can come to burnout because you physically overwork yourself. You can come to burnout because you mentally, emotionally, spiritually overwork yourself. But oftentimes when you overwork yourself, then there is something that you're missing. When it comes to productivity and everything, maybe the things that will really give you joy and peace and reward you in the way that you need are your family and your friends and things like that, and not the work that you're doing and not the amount of money that you are making. And Also, in faith, for example, I learned what I did not see is that I could rest assured in the righteousness of God that was attained by faith in Jesus Christ. I could rest assured that the Lord was the one that keeps me standing, and that by his strength I stand, and I will not fall as long as I walk with him. And even if I fall, the righteous fall 7 times and they get up every single time. So even if I fall, I will get up again. Like, I won't be in the season forever. And I just focused on the wrong things. I focused on the wrong things. The Lord wanted me to love life and enjoy life and see the beauty of life and be taught by life. But I instead decided to get into the driver's seat and take control of life. And that is oftentimes what we do as human beings. But, God has a specific design for life for us. And we just need to sit in the passenger seat and allow him to drive. And sometimes look out of the window and enjoy the landscape and observe people and ask questions. And then sometimes decide to get out of the car and go for a walk. And then you meet someone. And a person gets into the back seat, and all of a sudden you're 3 people in the car, and then you go on this journey of life. And at the end of the day, you have a community, you have things you've learned, you have things you've seen, sad and good, but that's just what life is. And you just have to want to live the journey of life. So yeah, that's it, guys. Maybe you will find some relief or any kind of revelation in the story that I found with Elijah. And yeah, burnout is real, but it passes, thank the Lord. As long as you allow yourself to slow down and you just take a break, and you allow yourself to take a break, because there is really no reason to not take a break, no matter how much you tell yourself that is true. It isn't. I really think you can make it work. And that is why we have community to help us when you need to take a break, whether, it might be financially difficult or however. We have community for a reason. I think we need to lean on community in these times and just allow ourselves to get back into a normal rhythm of living a joyful life. Yeah. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.